Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony, my black eye is diminishing. Have you ever had a black eye?
And Tony Kornheiser just once said the wrong thing to Vern Lundquist. Boom. Boom.
Yeah, I don't see Vern giving anybody a shiner, but maybe Vern's more aggressive than we know.
One of the nicest men we've ever met, Vern Lundquist.
Of all time.
Really, one of the
all
sweetest,
time,
nicest
Vern
men. Absolutely. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Maple Leafs win. Mike Trout is injured again. And Brian Windhorst joins us to talk about the futures of the Lakers and the Suns for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Philadelphia 76ers and Milwaukee Bucks staving off elimination last night. The Bucks beat Indiana badly, even without Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard, their 2 leading scorers. And the Sixers got 46 points from Tyrese Maxey, including 17 in the fourth quarter, and beat the Knicks in overtime in Madison Square Garden. Wilbon, are you focused on Maxey's heroics or on Tom Thibodeau's decision not to foul Maxey before he attempted the game-tying three-point shot?
Maxey's heroics, Tony. And I get Tom Thibodeau, we're going to get into that too. But look, coaches have different philosophies. And there are some coaches who say they will never foul in that situation. I'm persuaded after a conversation with a guy who played in the league a long time, Antonio Daniels, who does the color for New Orleans, among other things. And he said, remember now, you got to consider this differently as a defensive coach, even Tibbs. This shot is so makeable. It's not like they're making 8 threes in an NBA playoff game anymore. You got to make like 18 in a game. And guys shoot it from such depth with such regularity and success, like we see Tyrese Maxey, that you have to foul. And I know our friend Charles Barkley believes the same thing. And I've been like in the middle, and now they're persuading me that Tibbs should have fouled. But Tony, and you set the guideline for this morning when I called you and said, Tony, this is one of the greatest games of all time I've ever seen. And you said, hold on, Sparky. One of the greatest performances I've ever seen. I'm going to give you credit because you got me, you moved me on that. He was great. Yeah. Tony, the shots he made, those were unmakeable. They weren't even takeable 20 years ago. And to do it multiple times and do it in the clutch like he did, I'm going to concentrate, yes, on Maxey.
Yeah, the last 2 threes that he made in regulation were spectacular. He got fouled on the first one, so he made a 4-point play. Look, the smart play, you're up 3. The smart play is to foul. I don't know whether Thibodeau didn't call it or somebody on the Knicks didn't execute it.
Unclear.
But the smart play is to foul there. But I don't want to take away from Maxey on any level because he was absolutely tremendous. And he's coming out of a game where he wasn't awesome at home. He was 8 for 21 in the previous game. And last night he was 17 for 30, which is great. The larger question is, how does this affect the series? I still think that the Knicks are going to win. They have already gone to Philadelphia and won one game. They clearly should have won last night. They're up 6 with 30 seconds to go. But, Mike, to me, the greatest story to write out of last night is about Jalen Brunson. He was set to become a megastar. He had 47 on the road in the previous game, comes back with 40, and is totally eclipsed, by Tyrese Maxey. Plus, in the overtime, late in the overtime, he did not shoot well and he threw a bad pass. That, to me, is a story that you're right. It's about Tyrese Maxey becoming a star.
And, Tony, real quick on this. I know you were loath to let go of Curry and LeBron and Durant. I get it. But, Tony, Maxey and Brunson, among others, come on now. These guys are great. And even if they're not great every single night just yet, they're great enough when you look at them and say, wow, in this series, Embiid is playing not with bumps and bruises, with real ailments. He's diving on the floor to save a possession. It's a great series. I cannot wait to see Game 6. In the NHL last night, the Islanders and Jets bowed out. The Predators stayed alive, just as PK Subban predicted they would on this here show. And in Boston, the Maple Leafs edged the Bruins, to avoid elimination. Now down 3-2, the Leafs host Thursday's Game 6 in Toronto. With the possibility of Auston Matthews returning from illness, he'd better. Tony, the Bruins blew a 3-1 series lead to Florida last postseason. How should the Bees be feeling today?
Well, the first thing I would be feeling if I was a Boston Bruin is angry, because I have opened the door for people to make comparisons to last year. Boston has now, I believe, lost 2 out of 3 in Toronto. I'm sorry, 2 out of 3 at home. And so people are saying, well, this is what happened last year. They had a great regular season last year. They won the President's Trophy. They're bounced out of the playoffs in the first round by an 8 seed by Florida. You know, so I understand that people are going to do that. Look, I still think that Boston is going to win this series. But if I were writing a column, I would write that. I would talk about last year. And I would say it could be easier to be bounced out this year because I think Boston finished with the 4th best record in the conference and Toronto was 5th. So that's close. A 5 can beat a 4. I mean, that's not an unusual thing. But if I were Boston, Mike, I would also feel optimistic because they've won both games in Toronto, I believe. And this next one is in Toronto. And they've won them by 2 goals, not 1 goal. They weren't that close, you know, and I believe that they won all 4 games in the regular season. And you talk about Austin Matthews coming back. They're 7-1 against Toronto with Austin Matthews this year. I would feel optimistic.
Yeah, Tony, they're like 60 years to nothing against Toronto in the postseason. I think the last time Toronto beat the Bruins, I think, was 1959 in the postseason. But the question with Boston goes back to goaltending and whether you're going to go with Swayman or Ullmark. And because this question goes back and forth, and maybe it keeps Toronto sort of off balance. Maybe it doesn't really matter. But, yeah, it's a series when you have this happen. And, listen, Austin Matthews, he has to be out there and he needs to be great. And the reason I said high with Boston is only because Boston is like a swarm on Toronto. And Toronto's got to get out from under this. And you have to slay the dragon that torments you. For Toronto, mostly, it hadn't even been the Canadiens, it's been Boston. So, you know, you're going to make a series of this or not. You got this thing coming back to Toronto. Boston's a little shaky with this comparison to last year, not knowing what they're going to do with their goaltending. Yeah. Let's see what happens. But there's some intrigue now in that series.
I think there's more pressure on Toronto, obviously, because they haven't won a Stanley Cup in 57 years. We move now to baseball in the news that Mike Trout needs an operation to repair a meniscus tear in his left knee. There's talk it may not cost Trout the rest of this season, but that depends on what the doctors find. Trout's 32 years old. He's missed considerable time the last 3 seasons. Wilbon, what is the word you would use to describe Trout's career to this point?
The word would be, Is that a word? That's what it would be. There just is no good news for Mike Trout. I mean, he loses Ohtani in the offseason. Your boy Anthony Rendon is on the injured list, the DL, as we used to call it, for like the 15th year in a row. And he's got no tag team partners anymore when it looked like they were going to have, a 27 Yankee-style lineup when all these guys were sort of put together, all 3 of them. And Tony, it just, you see the comparisons. And he's got this number that compares positively to Ruth, and this one that compares positively to Ted Williams, and this one to Mays, and this one to Aaron. And it's just like he's so star-crossed. And more star-crossed than, say, my hero, Ernie Banks, who didn't play in a postseason, either won 2 MVPs and never had a postseason for baseball fans nationally to identify with. Well, in this modern age where 94 teams get to the postseason, and Trout can't even qualify that way. Yeah. It's just, it's just, what do you say to him?
You mentioned the exact word that I would use. It's star-crossed. Trout is not just a great player. He's an all-time great player, really. Don't talk to me about playoff games because Ted Williams only played in 7 playoff games in his entire career. He's a 3-time MVP. He's a 9-time Silver Slugger already. He's an 11-time All-Star already. His career numbers, he bats .299, 378 home runs, 954 RBI. Only Giancarlo Stanton of active players has more home runs. Trout right now is leading the American League in home runs this year. Only Jose Altuve and Freddie Freeman have higher batting averages among active players, and they don't have the power Trout has. You know what, Mike? It feels like when Ohtani left and left him behind, it feels like he was sentenced to prison with the Angels, that this is Alcatraz. And if this was the NBA, he'd have been out of there years ago. Let's take a break. Coming up, is LeBron most likely to stay with the Lakers or head somewhere else? We will ask Brian Windhorst.
We'll also ask him where the Suns and their alleged Big 3 go from here. Yeah, Trout
I don't know what Trout does there. I don't know what you do there. You got to go. What do you do?
You're in Southern California.
What's
Time to dig into the teams that Turner and ESPN wish were still in the NBA playoffs with our great friend ESPN NBA senior writer Brian Windhorst. Brian, Wilbon and I disagree about this, but you know LeBron better than both of us put together, so I'll ask, do you think he is most likely to end up back with the Lakers next year or somewhere else?
I think he is most likely to end up back with the Lakers. That said, he's spoken about this twice this week, once when he was asked at the end of the series against the Nuggets, where he wouldn't answer the question. And then after that launched 1,000 ships yesterday, with a lot of people speculating and talking about it, he tweeted and again did not profess that he's going to for sure be a Laker. So I will just say, when you are a free agent, which I expect him to be, I think he will opt out of his contract, because I think it gives him some options with re-signing with the Lakers. But when you're a free agent, you're a free agent. I suspect he will look at all of his options and remain in L.A. I think he loves living in L.A. There's a lot going for him here. But I would never close the door on a free agent not accepting free agency. So a lot is going to happen in the NBA over the next 8 weeks. A lot is going to happen with his son and the draft process over the next 8 weeks. And he's in a unique position. And frankly, he's not been a free agent in 6 years. So I think he's going to take the opportunity to evaluate those options. And that's a very long-winded way of saying probably, but we'll see.
All right, as long as we're dealing with angst in the West, let's move over a little bit to Phoenix and look at their situation, having been swept out of the playoffs. Brian, I don't know that I see Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker on the same court sharing it next season, but do you?
I think the Suns would like to run it back. However, it is not going to be up to them. Kevin Durant has reached a point in his career where his future is basically determined by him. And so where he's at is going to be very important. One variable, and this applies to LeBron too, one variable is that this summer is an Olympic summer. Team USA is gathering, and this is the biggest gathering of star players on Team USA since the Beijing Olympics in 2008. We have never seen this collection of stars who have committed over the last basically decade and a half. On that team will be Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. They have committed to play in it. That could potentially be something that brings them together more, strengthens their bond. It could also open up other bonds. Typically, we see everything done in the NBA in terms of NBA business by about July 4th, July 5th. This year, the Olympics and Team USA are at the end of July and early August. So what I will say when it comes to the Suns and Kevin Durant and Booker and all those other players, let's see where everybody's mood is after the Olympic experience. Because you know that Team USA always opens up doors for big things to happen with star players. And so I would like to see that process play out. But the Suns, really their best option is to try to retrofit around them and try to get them to play better together. They can't trade Bradley Beal because he's got a no-trade clause. And if Durant, I don't think would bring back the same return they traded for him. So I think that they're best off trying to make it work.
Well, let's talk about coaches. As long as we're on those two franchises, because you know there's so much buzz in both markets about those coaches, Frank Vogel and Darvin Ham, not being with their teams in a matter of, hours. Brian, what do you think?
Well, at the end of that series with Denver, it seemed like both the Lakers players and Darvin himself thought this was coming to an end. The way they were talking, Anthony Davis absolutely filleted Darvin after that 20-point blown lead in Game 2. I've never seen Anthony attack his coach like that, where he basically called him out, after the game. That was behavior that indicated that they thought there was a breakup coming. The last time the Lakers made a coaching change with Frank Vogel, they fired him in the locker room basically after their final game of the season when they were on the road, and they received heavy criticism for that. So I think if anything else, the Lakers want to take a little bit of time. But it wouldn't surprise me if they want to see how the coaching market plays out a little bit. If you fire a coach, especially your second coach in 3 years, or in the case of the Suns, second coach in 2 years, it doesn't bode well for candidates who want to come there. So part of me expects both coaches to be eventually let go, but it wouldn't surprise me if those teams take a little bit of time and see how the coaching market plays out before they fire a coach who they might not be able to replace with a better candidate.
I would get you out of here on this, and I'll start with the name of a coach who's totally safe, Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr wants all of those guys back with the Warriors. What do you think is going to happen there?
I think they will come back as long as Klay Thompson has a fair-minded understanding of where he wants, and as long as he doesn't want the last dollar. To get where they need to get salary-wise, what Joe Lacob has said, which is what he wants to get out of the tax, that Klay Thompson's got to take a $20 million-ish pay cut. I think that's reasonable, but I'm not Klay Thompson. So if he's willing to do that, I think there's a way to bring them back. And I know that they missed the playoffs, and I know that it was ultimately a disappointing season, but I still think that there were stretches of this last year where they played really good basketball. And they won, they had a winning record. This was not a team that was crying for a rebuild. So I think they try to bring it back with Steph and Draymond and Klay one more time. And we know that Steve Kerr feels that way because he extended his own contract. And let's see again how the summer plays out with Steph Curry and USA Basketball with Steve Kerr. You never know how things could play out after everybody gets to play with Steve Kerr for a summer.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
Yeah. Nice tie, by the way. Let's take one last break. Still to come, brawling and beekeeping in baseball last night.
And the Cavs go up in their series with the Magic. I know you like hearing that about the Warriors, Tony, because you just want to see old people. Yeah. You're not ready to move on. You don't want to see people like old. SGA and Anthony Edwards. You're not ready for them.
No. Happy time, people. Happy 22nd birthday, Chet Holmgren. The 7'1" Holmgren was the second overall pick 2 years ago by Oklahoma City after his one-and-done season at Gonzaga. Holmgren did not play that season because of a Lisfranc injury. So this is his rookie year, and he's made the most of it. Holmgren started all 82 regular season games, all 4 so far in the playoffs. Holmgren averaged 16.5 points a game, 7.9 rebounds, 2.3 blocks, 2.4 assists. Shot 53% from the field and 37% from three. If Victor Wembanyama wasn't such a spectacular rookie, people would be talking more about Holmgren, especially after his singing debut in that commercial with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Very cool commercial, Tony. Look, he's playing on a winning team, and he's a critical part of a #1 seed in the West. And he and Wembanyama apparently have enough friction for that to be a great rivalry for a long time. Going to be fascinating to see it grow.
Happy anniversary, Nolan Ryan. On this day 33 years ago, at the age of 44 and in his 25th season, Ryan threw his 7th and final no-hitter. To end the game, Ryan struck out future Hall of Famer Robbie Alomar. Only Ryan, Sandy Koufax, Cy Young, Bob Feller, and Larry Corcoran, who pitched in the 1800s, have thrown more than 2 no-hitters. Ryan has 7, Koufax has 4, the others all have 3. And again, Ryan got this one when he was 44 years old. A lot of guys throw 100 miles an hour now. I don't know Ryan's top speed, but nobody ever threw as hard for as long as Ryan. I once did a long story on Nolan Ryan. He told me he thought his speed and power came from his legs, not his arm.
Tony, I was at a game when I was a teenager where Nolan in Chicago at the old Comiskey Park, where Nolan Ryan had the White Sox 8 2/3 on his way toward what would have been another no-hitter, which would have given him 8. Dick Allen had, I think, what is still called a swinging bunt to get on base and break up that no-hitter. Would be hugely controversial today with social media and SportsCenter and highlights showing everything 5,000 times as it is. Nobody knows but me.
Happy trails to a swarm of bees before last night's Dodgers-Diamondbacks game. The game was delayed almost 2 hours because a whole bunch of bees descended upon the protective netting behind home plate at Chase Field. Diamondbacks Vice President Mike Rock called Blue Sky Pet Control and Matt last night's Dodgers-Diamondbacks game. The game was delayed almost 2 hours because a whole bunch of bees descended upon the protective netting behind home plate at Chase Field. Diamondbacks Vice President Mike Rock called Blue Sky Pet Control, and Matt Hilton left his son's T-ball game, got in his truck, headed for the ballpark. When he arrived, he was ushered into a cart and driven onto the field to a standing ovation. Hilton milked the moment, then sprayed the bees and removed them into a vacuum to be released later. The crowd cheered MVP And Hilton threw out the ceremonial first pitch to thunderous cheers. A job well done. What about bees in Arizona?
Yeah, Tony, it's not all that rare this time of year as we get to May. University of Arizona, I looked up a study in which it talks about the queen bee landing. And when that happens, you get this swarm of bees. I'm at the golf course yesterday, and you hear these bees. It sounds like cicadas. It's like enough.
All right,
enough.
wrap it
But
up.
I'd rather have that,
finish.
I think, than
we have
rattlesnakes.
No time. No more bees. No more. Cavs top the Magic to go up 3-2. Break it down quickly.
Looks like a 7-game series, Tom. More exciting than most people know. People aren't watching. They should. Abner Uribe, Jose Siri, ejected for throwing punches in a stupid Brewers-Rays brawl last night. Your thoughts?
A lot of people went out for a while. You can't throw punches. Heater at Celtics tonight without Kristaps Porzingis. Who you got?
The Celtics ought to put this away. You don't let Miami off the hook any longer than you have to. Tiger Woods told Today's Show he still hopes to play one tournament a month for the rest of the year, including the 3 majors. Your thoughts?
Yeah, those are the ones he's going to play, the majors. I hope he makes the cut. I don't know. Last one, Night Stars, Kings Oilers tonight. Pick 2 winners for us.
Night Stars 2-2, I'm unsure, but the Oilers. I got the Oilers eliminating the Kings tonight, Tony, to move on in that series.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcast. Watch some
So much bee talk. Swarms and queen bees. So
They're
much
right back
bee
there,
talk.
right behind me.